Hi guys, welcome to another episode of our full stack mobile development series. In today's episode, we are going to focus on our backend. We are going to set up the APIs for adding new accounts, as well as setting up your first account when you log into the application. So before that, let's make a few adjustments. If you look at the onboarding screen here, we take the name and the account type, which could be bank, mobile money, cash, or anything. What we want to also do is that have an input to change the currency here, and hopefully add a color picker so that in the UI we're able to differentiate accounts by different colors. Okay, so here I zoom out. Let me first pick the balance and then move it up a bit. Fair enough. And then drag this a bit up. Now I have my input field here. I'm going to duplicate this and I'm going to call this currency. Okay, so that when the user selects the currency, we update the symbol here. Okay, I think that is all right. And we want to do the same thing. For now, we do not want to take all these individual banks. We do not have all of that yet. So we can just go ahead and do with that. Okay. All right. And then I think we add new wallet, add new account. We just want to streamline this. Add new account. Okay. We do not want this entire screen because for now we are just keeping it simple. And I'll just move this here. All right. So this is the UI we are going to use. You enter the name of the account, you select the currency and the account type. And I said we wanted to add a color picker. We can go ahead and do that as well. But for now, we just avoid it. Okay, I think we will do without the color picker for now, because in the UI, we could be able to differentiate accounts by colors. But I think for now, we'll just go ahead without it. Okay. So what we need then is we need the backend to send the currencies, a list of the currencies that the users can choose from, and the account type. The reason why we want the backend to send this is that when we support newer currencies, we just provide it on the backend and the front end will fetch the newer ones as compared to hard coding it into the code. So to do this, I head over to my Visual Studio Code. This is where we are running our PHP application. I'm going to open my, let me zoom in a bit. Okay, I'm going to open my integrated terminal. And then this is it. Now I need to create a model. I need to create a migration and I need to create a controller for the currency. So PHP artisan make model is going to be called currency. I need a migration. I need a resources control. I need a resource and I need a seeder. That means that by default, the application is going to come with a list of currencies. So we need to see that as well. So in our migration, we have our currencies. As you look through the previous ones, we had the ID, UID, and all those things. So I'm going to create the ID and the UID. Then I'm going to have the string, which is going to be the name of the currency, the code of the currency, and the symbol of the currency. And then I'm going to have my field for soft delete. Also, we need to get the position of the symbol. So the symbol position, we need to get the thousand separator, and we need to get the decimal separator, and we also need to know the number of decimal places. And here I'm going to make it an integer of for that particular currency. So this is our currency. Once we are done, we head over to our model here, and then we're going to have the fillables as we did for the other one. So we have a fillable here. We have the one too for the OTP. I can just go ahead and copy one of this here, and then over here I have my name. I have the UID, the name, the code, the symbol, and oh, also we need to check whether it's active like we did for the other ones, whether it's active or not. So we can do the same thing. This is integer, sorry, whether it's active or not. All right, and then once we have this, think we've done that. So we head back to our model. The symbol position. We also need the 1000 separator, the decimal separator, and the decimal places. So that's the number of decimal places after the period. Okay, and then I think this is good enough. So once this is done, we head over to our seeder. And what we want to say is that when we deploy the application and we migrate and we see it, we want to pre-populate the list of currencies that we have. So I'm going to have currencies array here, right, which is going to be an array of a list of currencies. So if we look at our fillable here, these are the things we have to fill in. So the active, which is 1, decimal places. For now, let me use 2 for this currency I'm creating. The decimal separator is period. This is a comma. The currency symbol, this one is before the value. The symbol for this currency I'm creating is dollar. The code is USD. The name is US dollar, and the UUID. Now you realize that every time we need a UUID for a model, we need to pass the string UUID, right? We did that when we're creating a user, and because we need this, we have to always import this. Now there's another way of making this better, and that's by not passing this here. Instead, we head over to our model, which is this model. So in our models folder, we create a new file, call it the base model.php. So this is and then the namespace is app models. I have my class base model, which will extend the model. Okay, and just as we have here, we need use factory. Yeah, so use factory, and then here. Now what we want to do is we want to override the boot for this model. Okay, so protected function boot, and this is going to call the parent boot. Okay, so we need to make this static. Okay, so that, and then over here we are going to override the when the base model is instantiated, we need to set the UUID. Okay, and to do that, we are going to say static. When creating, we need to pass our function, and the function is going to have the model. And what we are going to say is that the model, sorry, not the model, the model UUID is equal to string. What we have here, the string UUID. So I'm just going to copy that over here, and we need to import this, and then that. So it's going to complain about this, and we need to have eliminate support string. Okay. So what we are saying is that whenever you instantiate this, the model, the UID field on that model is equal to a UID, which the system will generate. And then when we come here, at this point, we don't need this because we are going to extend the base model, and we can remove all of this. Okay. So if we go back to our seeder, then we do not need the UUID. Now, the reason why I'm doing an array of an array is I can have multiple, and then I'm going to use Ghana CD. The code is GHS. For now, let me use GHS as the code, and the same thing. Okay. Now, once we have this, let me minimize this. What I can then do is loop through this. Okay. So I can use collect and then the currencies, and then for each currency here, so it's a function, sorry, currency here, and then do this, or I can just use a simple for each loop and then loop through everything. So over here, I say currency first or create. So what I'm trying to say is that create it if it does not exist, but if it does exist, we just return it. So first or create, sorry, I need to do this. It needs two arguments. So the first one is what I'm going to check with. So I'm going to check with the currencies code. And then if it does exist, then if it doesn't exist, then I'm going to create it with this currency. So at this point, this is the one to check, and this is the payload I want to set. Okay, and then I go ahead and save. So I have this completed. I don't need that. And the final thing is I head over to my database, see that, and we do not need this, but rather I'll say this call, and this will take an array, and my first seed I want to call is this. So I want to call this. All right, let's open our integrated terminal and run PHP artisan migrate to create our table, and PHP artisan dbc to see the data. So now we have the data seeded successfully. It's done. If there was an error, it would throw the fail. Now let's look at our data. So I go to MySQL, I enter the password, I use Penger, that's my database, and then I select star from currencies. So that's the two currencies we created. The USD, I can just select the name and go to name, code symbol. If you have database IDs like MySQL Workbench or DataGrip, you can do the same thing. But for now, I'm just using the terminal. We are going to install Workbench and then do this also. So as you can see, we have the two that we created. We can also look at their IDs and their EU IDs. Sorry. All right. So that's it. We can add a bit more. For example, in I want to add Norwegian krona. So Norwegian krona. The NOK, the symbol is KR. The position is before, but for the thousand separator, it's just a space, and the decimal is a comma. Okay, so I see it again, and when I run this query again, I should get my third option here, right? Okay, now let's return this to the user. So to do that, we need to look at our controllers. We created this controller here. I'm going to move it into my API folder, because it's going to be an API controller, and then I'll have to update my namespace. Okay, and then import this again. I don't need all the resources here. I just need the index. Now we said that we are not going to do anything logic with regards to getting data from the database and all those things in the controller. We are going to extract it into our service class. So we need to create a service class here, just as we did for the auth. We create a new one. We call it the currency service. Okay, so it's a PHP. Okay, and then I need to set the namespace. It's very important. Okay, all right, I have my class. Now the first function I want to have in the class is a function to return everything in the currency. So get all, then this is going to return a collection of everything in the currency. Okay, and it's complaining because we are not getting anything. And what we are going to do is, for now, we just want to return currency get. That's everything in the currency. For now, that's what we want to do. Now let's test this. So here we are going to inject the currency service. Okay, and then I need my constructor. Okay, and then I just copy this over here. All right, so this is equal to that. Okay, so in my index here, I want to get this. Just leave this for now. I update it. So it's going to be this currency service gets all. Okay, and then sorry, this are currencies. And just as we have in our API responses here, we have this return. So yeah, get, and then return. So we want to say results, and we are just making sure we are following the same standard. So currencies. Okay, so we are returning this, and we want to change this. So here, typically, if you look at when we were doing our languages, we said that, successfully we're doing it for each one, which is not efficient. So for example, if we want to say that the currencies have been loaded successfully, so currencies loading successful. Okay, so I say currencies loading successful. What if I want to say accounts loading, users loading, and all those things? Realize I keep repeating the same thing. So what I want to do is I want to first take this thing here. I have my currencies, and I have my singular currency. Okay, let me move this down here. And then over here, I'm going to say data, and then I'm going to do this. So when I do colon data, it means that I can replace this part of the string with that. So data loading success, data loading error. So an error occurred loading that particular data. Okay, so comma. Okay, all right. Then what I want to do then here is I pass this data loading success. Now in my second argument, it performs the replace, which is an array. So here, that's the data. The ID is able to detect it. And what I want to replace it with is app currencies, right? So I go ahead and save it. And this is in my routes. I can go ahead and do that. Then in my routes folder here in the API, we have this for the auth. We need to define our routes for the currency service, the currency controller, sorry. And then this is going to have a group function. Okay. So we have our first route, which is going to be a get route, which is going to be a get on the currency. And that should call the default the index, and the name is going to be API currency index. Okay, so we have this. So we have our route. Now let's head over to our Postman. I'm going to create a new folder, and then I'm going to call it currencies. Okay, I'm going to duplicate one of this and move it down here. Get currencies. Now this is going to be a get. It doesn't have anybody. And then the header, the authorization is from parent. So here I'm going to say API currency. Okay, I'm going to get, and then I have my currency. So currencies loaded successful, loading successful, and I have my list of currencies in here. So just the three. Now we don't want just anybody. The reason why this is a problem is now if I open this in the browser, it will return this. Now we do not want just anybody to call our API. We want only users who have logged in to call our API. So to do this, we have to call the middleware sanctum on this route. So middleware auth sanctum. And then as soon as I call this again, I can do that here. I'm sorry. Good. Now when I come back, I get the error because I'm supposed to log in. We can get it pretty well here. So it's unauthenticated. Okay. And you realize we keep repeating this URL all over the place. Let's make it nicer. So we take this and then we can head over to our environment. We create a new environment. Okay. So environment helps you switch between dev, staging, production, local environment. So I'm going to create a local one, and I'm going to call this variable my base URL or my API URL. And then that's the default value. And then I can have another one to store my token. So my API token. So in here, I first switch to the local environment. Remember, whenever you do anything here, you have to save it. And then I say API URL. So it gives me the hint, and then I put my /currency, and then I get the same response. Now it wants an API token, and I'm saying inherit the auth from the parent. So that means if you come to the parent collection here, the authorization is inherit the auth. And this is the parent. So I'm going to switch to bearer token. We could set the token directly here, but when we do it on the parent, that means everyone would rely on that. And then we log in. So I'm going to log in. I get my token. I go here, and then I want to use my API token as my variable. So I head over to local, and then I paste it. So that's my current value. Now when I come here and I call the system again, then I get it. So I have my currencies, my results here, and these are the list of currencies. Now we don't want to return all this to the user. We want to return some set of data. So to do that, we head over to our Visual Studio Code, and we need a resource, API resource. So PHP artisan make resource, and then we are going to call it currency resource. So it's going to create this currency resource for us, just as we had for the user. And then here we're going to have ID, which is then going to be our UUID. We have the name, the code, the symbol, the symbol position. Okay. And then we have the 1000 separator, the decimal separator, and the decimal places. Okay. All right. So now we need to use this in our currency controller. So over here, we just say this collection, and now colon, we need to import this as well. And now observe this, you have the ID and all this, the time and everything. Now we don't have it again. Okay, so that's how it works. We have our data sorted. Now I want to add another thing, and in my resource I want to add a sample value. So sample, and that's going to be a sample value. Now we don't have this in the model, so what we're going to do is we have accessors and mutators in Laravel, and I'm going to create one accessor to get that field. So public function get, and then I say sample. So let's say if I want something like user underscore name, then what I'll just do is I'll just get user name in camel case like this, and it will translate to this. So when I say get sample attribute, that means anytime I do the currency, I look for sample on currency, it will return this. So here for now, let's just return 1000. Okay, so let's get this. The sample is equal to 1000. As you can see here, we want to return a string. Okay, now with the help of the number format in PHP, I can do this and then return this. Okay, so I have my string here. By default is 1000 with a comma. Now we said that with Norwegian krona, the 1000 separator is just a space, and the decimal separator is a comma, and there's two decimal places. Okay, so what we are going to do is with the number format, you get to have the decimals, and at this point we already have our decimals, so it's a decimal places, and then we have the decimal separator. So that's our decimal separator here. So this decimal separator, and we have the 1000 separator. So the 1000 separator. So this the number format. It takes the number, the decimals, the decimal separator, and the thousands separator, and that's what we've done here. So now let's return this. You realize that for US dollars we get this 1,00.00, this 1,00. But with the Norwegian krona, we get 1 space 00, comma 00. So that's how the data would look like. And because we are saying before and after, if you have a currency where the symbol position is after, that means the currency symbol has to be after. So now let's show our currency symbol. So at this point, we have our value. Now, if the symbol position here, so if this symbol position, and because we are assessing this on the user, we get to use this and get these values as well. It's after, let's handle the after scenario. That means the value is equal to the value we have here with the symbol after it, and that's this symbol. Now, if not, so if it's not after, then obviously it's before. So we move the value around like that, and then we return our value. Okay, so I can just go ahead and call this sample just to make it a bit more. Okay, we can use a ternary on this also, but for now we just want to. Okay, so now we get this, and we get that, we get that, and we get the Ghana city. Okay, so that's the sample. Like I said, we can use a ternary. We can rewrite this as sample is equal to if after, then we have this. If not, then we have that. Then you can take this down here. And this should give you the same results. And then instead of doing this, you can just return early on that. So that's another way to simplify the code. All right, so we have our sample and everything. Now you realize there are about 180 fiat currencies in the world, and you cannot be populating all of this yourself. So what we are going to do is we're going to do this in a very smart way. You can go ahead and copy, let's say copy this array, and then head over to ChatGPT or any other AI tool that you have. I'm just going to paste this, and then I'm going to say that continue the list by adding the remaining currencies in the world. And then these are the existing ones. It's going to add the rest. So you see it's adding euro, it's adding British pound, it's adding Japanese yen, and all those things. And you're going to get the most popular ones. They're about 180. So it's going to take a lot of time to generate all of this for you. But I've already done this. I already have the list. So I'm just going to copy it over into our application. And I'm going to drop a link to the repository so that you can also access this list. So sometimes you realize it breaks and then you have to continue generating because it's a long list. So I'm going to go ahead and copy mine over. So I already have generated this and I can show you this is the list of mine. I have 154 of them. So I'm just going to paste it over this and then format it. I think I have an issue with this. Oh, sorry. I have the, it has to be that. Okay, so I have 154 of them, as you can see. Okay, which has everything from the Afghani currency to the Zimbabwean one. And then if you look at Norwegian krona, for example, it's after. So that's one of the things that's correct for us. And we have Ghana city, we have the symbol, we have the USD. Okay, so now I'm going to migrate. I'm going to roll back migrations so that it removes the currency table, and I'm going to migrate back again. At this point, I can just say seed and it would migrate and seed my data. Now let's look at the data that we have. Before we had 3 rows, Now let's look, we have 151 of them because to handle all the duplicates and everything, and then remove it, because out of the 154 I had some that were duplicates. So we have currencies like Comoran franc, which has no decimal places. So that means it's everything from 0 to up. There's no point something. Okay. Now let's look at our API again. So let's look at something like the Norwegian krona, and this is how it's written. All right. So our AI use the dots. All right. So it's either you write with a dot or you write with a space, which is correct. And we can look at the euro, and then yeah, same thing. So there are currencies which have after, for example, these ones, and this Ghana cedi, that's before Guinea franc. So we have a lot of them now. Now realize we are showing 151 currencies at the moment. Now what if the user does not want all the 151 at the point? If the API, we can paginate the API. Sorry, we can paginate the API so that we return the results that we want. So for example, here I want to say that I want the size to be 20. So give me 20 at a time so that I do not spend resources loading everything. And then I need you to return me page one of that 20. And I could also search. So let's say I want to return anything GH. So that means Afghan or Ghana cedi. And you should return me just those values. To achieve this, what we have to do is we head over to our currency here, service here, and what we need is we need the request the user made. Okay, and then in our controller here we need to pass the request, so we get the request and then we pass it over. So at this point we want to change this and say that currency, and then we return currencies. Now we are not going to get first we are going to order by the name. Okay, so that's our currency. Now what we want to do is if the request has a search, that means the user wants to search the currency, we want to perform a search on it. So we are going to say that currencies where the name is like that, the name is like the search that we've passed. So for now, let's just do where this, now this is not the like, this is just going to be an exact search. So let's do first with the code, and then we still return the gets. Okay, so if I search with GHS, we should return only Ghana cedi. All right, if I search with NOK, it's supposed to return only Norwegian krona. If I search with anything that has a match, it won't return anything. But for now we just want to start with GH so that we get Afghan and all those things. Okay, so here we change this where, and then we are going to pass a function. So where function, and the function is going to have our query. Okay, and then for our query we say that where, and then we pass our field, which is the code, and then we're going to say like, and we have our percentage sign so that we search through everything, and then we need to pass the search. So at this point I'm going to say that my search is equal to this, and then I'm going to pass the search here. So use search, so that is available here. We can just do that. Okay, and then I'm going to return that. Okay, so where the code is like this search, and we also want to do other things. So instead of also doing this, what we can also then do is take this here, use this, and then once we have percentage, we can have our search in here. So this is also going to work for us. So where this, I can continue writing, or where the name matches this. Okay, so what we are trying to say is that where the code is like this, or the name is like that, and this would be returned as one simple where, one condition in brackets, not two separate conditions. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this. And then we have Afghani because he has GHA, and we have Ghana CD. Now, if you want to see all those ones that have dollar in their name, we can also do this: Australian dollar, Bahamas dollar, Bermudian dollar, Fiji, Jamaican, Singapore. So you get everything dollar, okay, including the United States dollar. All right, so that's because you are passing dollar. But if I pass USD, then it should just be this. Okay, so that's the name and code. We could also search for the symbols, but not all of them are in some of them are similar, so you just want to search this. Now we want to also paginate the results, if any. So if there's any pagination, we want to paginate the results. And then over here, what we are saying is that we have the page and the size. By default, the Laravel would read the page, and we also need the size. So what we can also do is over here. No, I just undo this first. So over here, what we want to do is, after this, we are going to say int pagination, and it's going to be now the default. So if the pagination is set, then I can just go ahead and do this. So if pagination is set, we paginate with the value being set. If not, we get this. And that would affect the return types, because we are going to have two return types depending on whether this has been set or not. So we are going to have the length aware paginator here as the other possible value. You can just do this. Now, if I do not pass anything, it's going to return all of this. But as soon as I pass a pagination, so 5, let's say 5, and I get this. Now let's remove this. It's going to return only 5 items. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it wouldn't return the rest. So that means there are 5 items per page. That's what we are saying. Now we want to use the size that the user passed. So over here, let's first, I think we should validate the request. In this case, we are not necessarily going to return any error. So we just need to make sure that the size is nullable, but it's numeric, and the minimum is 1. So you can go below 1. Okay. And then the page also, and the search is a string, the maximum is 255. Okay, so at this point we have the size, so request size. So if we pass it, it's going to come. Now if I pass 1, it's going to return Afghani currency, the Afghani. If I go to page 2, it's going to return me the next item, the Albanian leg, page 3. Okay, so then what we want to do is we want to also improve this to let the user know the kind of results that's up. So we need to know the total that's there, and we need to know the page. Okay, we need to know whether they can go to the next page or the last page. And to do all this, let me show you one thing. We can also output this result here, and then you realize we have items, we have per page, current page, the path, and we have the total and the last page. Okay, so if I'm to say that give me 20 per page, there are total of 151. The last page is 8 pages, so there are 8 pages, and I'm on current page 3. So per page is 20. So let's go ahead and use that here. So the currencies, the total, the current page is the page I'm on. So that's the current page. In the total, so here, current page, and then we can go to the last page, and the last page is last page here. So current page, last page, and then the per page, which is the size. So we can also improve this. Let's make sure it matches. So per page is 20 and the current page is 1. So here we change this to per page and change this to per page. And then we remove this for now. So current page, last page. So per page is going to be this. We just want to send back this information so that the front end can know how to navigate through. And then we go ahead and send this again. So it's complaining about unable to access this. And then, sorry, the same thing. You cannot do, you have to. Okay, so we have our currencies. Per page is 20, our current page is 3, the last page is 8. So if the user goes to page number 8, you realize that the current page is 8, the last page is 8. So there's no page number 9. If they go to page number 9, they won't get anything because you're on the current page 9, but there's nothing there. And then at this point, the system can paginate and know that, oh, there are 151 of them. You show it to the front end. There are 8 pages, so you can move from page 1, 2, 3 up to 8 if you do 20. Now, if I'm to do 50, then I get only 4 pages. Okay, because there are 150. So page 0 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 150, and then 151 to 200, and there'll be 1. So if I go to the last page, which is page 4, I should get only 1 item. Okay. All right. Now, if I do not pass the per page at all, then there will be no pagination. And then we have this error because we did not paginate. So there's no need to have this pagination. Okay. So that's another thing that we also need to know. But because we are building this API, we can also see that every time there's going to be a pagination, even if you don't pass it. So if you don't pass anything by default, you are going to set it to 50. Okay, so that's another way. The other way is to make sure that you check if there's pagination even before you pass this error, this values to it. And what you can also then do is over here. So if this value is set, then we know that there's pagination, and then we have our results here. So our results is equal to this array, but not necessarily this entire item. So we pass the results down here. I need this. Okay, so here, if there's a pagination, if the page size was requested by the front end, then we do this, and then I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Okay. All right, so if you request pagination, I give you pagination. If not, I give you everything without pagination. So as soon as you request this, you get the data with this. So if you pass the per page, then you expect to have this information. If you do not pass it, then you do not. So handle pagination. All right, so I think that's okay for. But one thing is, if you do not pass the pagination, but you pass the search, you should still perform the search. That one is non-negotiable. It should still perform the search because we want the front end to allow the user to start typing at least something, and then we start filtering the results. So when they say GH, then we start filtering. Okay, when they say NO, we start filtering, and then we get Norwegian Krona and North Korean won. So then NOR, then it goes to North Korean and this, then NORW, it keeps. All right, so that's it for the currency. The other thing we need is also the account types. And to do that, we also need to do the same thing. So we open our integrated terminal PHP artisan, make model, account type. We need the model, we need the controller, we need a resource, and we don't need a resource here because it should be empty. We are going to do our stuff. When you add a resource, it's going to create the methods you need in the controller. We don't need that. And then we head over to this. So the same thing as we did for this one here, we can just copy it over. Oh, and before that, one last thing, in the currency service, we have the active, as you can see here. I can show you that we have an active field, which is 1. So we want to make sure that we are only returning active currency. So if the backend disables a currency, we do not want to show it to the user. So that's the fix. All right. So let's go back to this. The account type, the name of the account type, the code, and just a description. Now the code should be unique. Okay. And then we need active and those. Another thing is with the UUID here, we can also index this so that it makes our APIs, our queries faster. So good. Index, and also on the user, I want to index my UUIDs. Okay. So it makes our queries faster. All right. So we have this. So for the account type, we have bank, mobile money, and the code and the description. So I'm going to go ahead and create the seeder for this one. So let's continue. And in the seeder, just as we did for the currencies here, we can just copy the first one. Right. So here we first add our account type seeder. We head over to account types, and then this going to be our types. I'm going to close it down here. Okay, so we have cash. So cash is going to be our last first one, cash. And description is going to be cash accounts. Okay, so we have cash. We can also have a general account. Very small, like for everything. We can have bank. So that's going to be a bank account. So what kind of bank account? So we can have savings account, current account. So let's see, savings account. So savings, and then we have current accounts. So savings accounts. The code, we want the code to have no white space. So current account. And then we have insurance account, investment accounts. We have so we have investment. So current account, savings account, investment. Okay, and then we have insurance. So if you have any insurance account, think I want to add this one up here. common in Africa. It's called mobile money. So Momo, mobile money. And then we have you can have loan accounts also. So loan, these are just you can have loan accounts, you can have mortgage, you can have insurance, you can have savings account. Oh, and you can have a credit card. If you have a credit card, in Norwegian we say credit code. So credit card accounts. All right, so we've created our accounts, and the same thing we did for the currency. So way down here. Okay, so same thing. We want to collect types. This is the type, and at this point I have my account type, and then I have my code account. So now let's set up this. So now this is also going to have the base model. We already have defined this in the base model. We just need our fillable, which I'm going to copy this over. I don't need all of this. I just need my description. And because we are using the put to set the UID, I think also for the fillables, we do not want to let the user set it because we are already setting it here. So that's my account type and all those things. So I think I can do PHP artisan migrate and seed. So PHP artisan migrate dash C. So it creates the currencies. Run the currency seeder. Created the account table. I need to save this file. Sorry. Now it runs the account type seeder, and this realize it keeps running the currency seeder, but it does not recreate it. We have 151 rows. It's still 151 rows. Now let's look at description from account types. So these are account types, general and all those things. So general, cash, mobile money, savings account, current account, investment, insurance, loan, and then credit card. So I think that's okay. We can add something like an account with overdraft. These are all other options that we can have, but for now we're just going to work with these ones. Okay, now for this also, we need to set up our routes. So here we can head over to this and then set up the same thing. So account hyphen type. So account dot type, and this is going to be account type controller. You realize the account type controller is in the wrong namespace because we've not moved it over to this. So we have to move it over to that. And then we have to fix the namespace and then import this. When we head over to this, we can go ahead and add this here. We can just re-import it. So account type this. Now let's add an improvement to the currency controller before I continue. So over here, I can also pass the ID. So let's say if the front end passes this ID to us, just to get one particular one, we just say get, and then this is a get. So if I head over to this, and then get currency by UID, and great. So this is a get, and this one has the request and the ID, which is a string UID. So over here, we are not going to do all this. We're just going to duplicate it, but this should take not this, but the string UID, and say get by UID. Okay, and then say currency is equal to this. At this point, we say where the active is 1, and the UID is equal to the UID the user passed, and we get the first. Okay, we do not need all of this. Now, if the currency does not exist, we abort and then we say 404, and then we say that app data loading error. But at this point we want to be a bit more clear, so we say that data not found. So here, data not found. Okay, so we have that data not found. So data not found, our translation data at this point is app currency. So currency not found. If it's found, then we return our currency. Okay, so what happens is that if the currency UID pass does not exist, it would throw this error. If it does exist, it will return the currency, and then we return our currency. If it's not active, it will do the same thing. Okay, so we head over to our API. Yes, okay. Now I'm going to replace this and then say get currency by UID, and then I'm going to get GHS, which is this, and then I'm going to forward this and then say that GHS currency ID. So now this variable I want to create. Another way is you can create the variables from here, create this, and we pass it. So I know that my GHS currency ID is this value, and then I get, and then it's complaining about, oh, we have to fix the route. And then yeah, controller here, we have this get, yeah, sorry, I just have to call it again. So now we have our currencies, which is this, and then we have all of this, but that's not what we want. We rather want to say that get currency. We do not need this validation, and then we say get by UID, and the UID is equal to the UID here. And then okay, so that's my currency, and then I change this to currency as well. So when I load currency loaded successfully, and then I have this one particular currency, and we forgot to pass it through our resource. So here, because we have just one item, it's going to new currency, and we pass it directly like this. And then we have our result, which has the currency in there. We can add any other options, sure, but that's our currency. So if you pass any other one, it's going to work. Now let's duplicate this and call this account types. And then I'm going to change this. Okay, so this is going to be account type, and this is also going to be account type. And then I'm just going to say general account type, general account ID. So first, let's get our account types. We don't have a search for it here. Okay, so there's no method called index, and that's because we've not worked on our index. We can do this, duplicate what we have here. So the flow is very simple. We need a service, and then we need to then go ahead and inject the service and then use it in our controller. So we head over to our services. We create the account type service, PHP. Okay, so we have our namespace, and then it's going to be app services. Okay, and then here we need to have the get all, just as we have here. So we can just, let's not waste time, go ahead and copy this over. The currencies, go to account type, and where the code and name is matching this, and we need all these imported. Okay, so we have our get all, and then we can also do the same thing for get by the UID, account type, same thing for account type, and here we say account type. So that means you have to create the account type translation, and then you can do that here. I like to separate the plurals from the singular. You can have them in one line, but I just most times like to do that. So yep. So we have our service. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward. And then here we get, so account type service, account type service, and then we have our constructor, which has this, and then we have this value here. So we have our public function index, and we forgot to do the return type in the previous episode. We are going to do that. So over here, you realize in our previous episodes we're passing the response types, but here we didn't pass it. Response. Okay. So same thing for the get. All right. So we need to return a response, and we've not done that. Okay. So that's why it's complaining. All right. So the same thing we did in here. We're gonna get this, get that. It's just basically the same thing, and we're just going to make it a bit more clear. So we need a request. So request here, per page search, and at this point we have account type service instead of currencies, and we have account types. So we need our account type resource, but for now let's just return our account types here, and then I'm going to do this. When we are returning the data to the front end, we'll keep it in the snake case, but in our backend we are going to work with this camera case. And so over here, the same thing. If there's pagination, you add others. If there's no pagination, over here we have account types. Okay, so I think we're pretty much done with this. Now let's go ahead and test this. All right, so account types loading successful, the current page, and then we're having all of this data, which isn't what we want to have. So first page, and here what we are doing is we are returning the raw paginate value, which exposes a bit more. It even tells you the next page, the from, the to, the links, the next, and all those things. But that's not what we want to do. We want to format the results we get. So PHP artisan make resource account type resource sorry. Okay, so we have our account type resource here, and the same thing. We just need to have, for now let me just remove the page. Then we have ID, name, and all this. So this is the accounts, all the account types. So we have the ID, which is going to be this, the name, the code, and the description. All right, so ID, name, code, and the description. All right, so we have it now, and then we head over to this, and then we say the account type resource collection, and then we pass our collection here, and then we have it. So cash, credit card, investment, and all those. So that's everything. Even if we put a per page, I mean, they are just 9 items, so it doesn't. So yeah, and now if I want to search, I want to look for all of them that is general. Just do this and I get my general. All right. So that's it for this screen. We have the name is going to be provided by the user, but we have the currency and the account type. So that's the two endpoints. And then we can also get the general ID here, like I said. And let's add over it, add into local. Now let's get, and it's complaining that this route does not exist. So let's create it. So in our API here, we need to create another one, which takes the ID. You can call it UID, ID, whatever, but yeah. And then here it's a get. So this our get. That means we need to have our get just as we had in the previous one. So for the get, we can, I mean, there's comments and all these things you can add if you want. But yeah, so the get that we don't need all this. We need to get account types here. So get account type. This account type and it's gets by UID. We need to have the UID here. So string UID. We don't need all this, and we're going to return one. And in here, we're going to say that the currency is, sorry, the account type. Sorry about that. The account type. Let's go to this account type, but it's going to be a new account type resource. We put it an HTTP resource. So get the account type. If it does not exist, good. So now we go ahead and we do this. Now if I do this, it says that the account type is not found because I've added one to the UID. So it makes it the UID and one, which is not found. Okay. And that is so that's our API. If added pagination, if also remove if you don't need pagination. Yeah. All right. So that's it for today's episode. We are just going to go ahead and commit these changes that we've done so far to the, yeah. So to do this, I just do get status just to see everything. Now get add, get commit. Now we need to have a very nice commit messages. And now moving forward, we are going to use episodes as our issues and then use it to track so that you can be able to go back into each episode. So I'm going to head over to the Git repository. Okay, so I'm going to create an issue here. To sign in two-factor. I have enabled two-factor authentication, so I need to set that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and create a new issue, and this is going to be episode 12, currency and account type API endpoint. So add currency API endpoint. Add okay, so I'm going to assign it to myself and I'm going to submit the issue. So now we get a issue ID of 1. So then what I'm going to do is get checkout branch. It's going to be a feature branch, my initials. And the one I like doing this was the feature. So if it's a feature, if it's a fix, if it's a bug fix, my initials and the ID of the issue, and then I say that currency, and I give the branch currency and account types endpoint. All right, so git commit. That's my commit message. Let's copy it. Feature number 1. Okay, and then I push, and I need to set the upstream. Okay, so I have my URL for a pull request. Okay, and then it's just supposed to. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and merge, and we can look at all the changes we've done so far. So I just go ahead and merge. All right, and then I can delete the branch, but I'm just going to leave it so that you can browse through the branches. So yeah, that's the commit. So you can, yeah. All right, that's it for today's episode. Please, if you have not subscribed, please do so. If you have any comments or any questions, you can drop it below or send it to me on Discord, or you can also drop it in our Discord channel. I'm going to provide a link to that also in the description below. See you.